Hotty toddy, Ole Miss fans, and welcome to the Brad and Chad Show on the OM Network. Brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, made in the USA. This is the show by and for Ole Miss fans, where you'll get expert insight and analysis on Ole Miss athletics. And now, here are your hosts, former Rebels Chad Flowers and retired NFL star Bradley Sowell.
Podcast time.
Brad and Chad Show brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans. Chad Flowers here on February 9th, recording on a Thursday. Bradley Sowell, a little under the weather this week, man. How we feeling?
Good. Feel a little better now. Yeah, I had a couple days in there where I don't know what I had, but
bubble guts or what was going on?
Wasn't feeling real good, man. But after what, and we did have our scrimmage, Chad. You got to check back in with that. So we did have our scrimmage that you mentioned, and it was fun. It was fun.
Cool. Yeah. Speaking of softball, Ole Miss softball gets kicked off this weekend in Puerto Vallarta. I think they're there for a week, so lucky them.
Dude, recruiting schedule. I saw that schedule. They were, I think it's like 7 or 8 days. They're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're there for a week, and they're going to play some really good competition. We'll talk a little bit more about what they have a little bit later on. But the Ole Miss recruiting class is finally done, and I guess until the next transfer portal window opens. But high school recruiting, everybody has signed, or at least a majority of the players have signed. Picked up a few other defensive players that is always nice for Pete Golding to have, some new toys to play with, and some interesting changes to SEC baseball play. So, yeah, let's kind of get into it. I don't know if you got a chance to see, but, the Rebels picked up 2 more, defensive players I had just mentioned. Recruiting class finished top 25 if you're looking at On3. Now, of course, you're going to have different ratings depending on the sites that you're looking at, but they picked up a JUCO linebacker from Southwest Community College in Macomb. 42 tackles, 5 sacks. And then DJ Holmes, I thought this was interesting. 6'2", 235 edge rusher from Florida. This is the nation's leader in sacks last year, 32 and a half sacks. He finished his high school career with 52. Now, obviously, with high school, that can be misleading. But anytime you see 32 and a half sacks, I don't care what level you're playing in, you'd imagine that at least at some point they're going to game plan for you. But they obviously couldn't do anything with him. And 32 and a half sacks is nothing to sniff at.
Yeah, well, what I like about him is he's a great fit. I think Pete's going to run the 3-4 defense, but here's what people say. People's like, oh, he's going to run 3 down. No, it's a different 3 down, right? The 3 down we were running before, it was basically a 3-3. I mean, I don't even know what it is, honestly. You got 3 down linemen, you got DBs everywhere. A true 3-4 is what I always talk about, right?
Right.
That's the old, it's what the Ravens used to run when they had Terrell Suggs and Paul Kruger. It was it's what the Broncos ran when they had Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, right? That's you got 3 down linemen, you got a head up nose, you got the 2-4 eyes, and you have 2 guys that are stand up backers. Can't put their hand in the dirt anytime, but the reason they're going to run this is because they got the 5. That way you can get a 5-0 call from the O line. That's 5-on-5, good pass rushing, and this guy kind of fits that mold, right? Because you got to be able to rush the passer, but you also have to be slim enough to be able to cover a running back. So this guy kind of fits his needs, it looks like. And I don't know if it was him or the other guy where he made the comment, if this guy was 2 inches taller, he'd be one of the top recruits in the nation. So I'm excited. I think that's a good piece for us.
Yeah, the next real big milestone for the football team. They announced spring practice start, Grove Bowl. I believe it's going to be set for April 15th. 2:00 start. So that's when we're going to get to kind of see some of the quarterbacks. I think Spencer Sanders, they say, has a shoulder injury right now. Mm-hmm. So we may not get to see him in the spring game, but it will be nice to be able to see, Jackson Dart, play, as well as, Walker Jones. I'm sorry, not Walker Jones, but
Walker Jones. Walker Jones is the great collective guy.
Yeah. Walker, his name is escaping me at the moment, but
Walker Howard.
Yeah, Walker Howard. So that transfer come in, we should be able to see some good action, see what that quarterback competition is going to look like there in Oxford. So it'll be interesting to see.
With Spencer Sanders having a shoulder, what do you think? I mean, I saw the comments where people were saying, hey, it pretty much throws him out of the competition.
I don't think that surely they knew coming in, right? I mean, you would think that this wasn't something that was hidden from the coaching staff or whomever decided to recruit him in. So I would imagine that was known. So I don't think that that's going to, obviously it's going to put him, probably third in line, at least at the end of spring, but I would imagine that things can ramp right back up in the fall and he'll have the chance to win the job if he outplays the other two.
That kind of brought me to this point where I was thinking in my head, right? I said, hey, is that the reason that he came here? Because he knew that, hey, I'm have a shoulder issue, and maybe Oklahoma State, he knew at least go somewhere else to get a chance. That they knew he had a shoulder issue, knowing that, hey, he's probably going to be the backup because his shoulder's going to bug him for a while, or is that why he came? So I don't know. I mean, it's because it's kind of odd to me that he signed being the kind of player that he was. But is it because, hey, I had a shoulder injury, and I know I'm probably not going to be the same after I get done with it, but I can probably provide you with a decent backup for the year coming in, or hey, or they plan on redshirting him, right? I don't know.
That makes a little bit more sense where, you know what, hey, I've got the shoulder thing. It's going to take me a little while to rehab it. So at minimum, you're going to have that surefire backup in case I'm needed type thing. And he didn't search for another starting job elsewhere because of that. So that does lead a little bit more plausibility to why he may do that. So, I still think that he'll remain in Oxford even after this transfer portal window opens up in May. And I would expect him to still be on the roster and compete for, at minimum, a backup spot, especially considering how far behind he's going to be, since he's not going to really be able to participate fully in spring practice.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch there, man. That's going to be a battle. And I know people think Walker Howard, hey, he's a young guy, whatever. But the more I keep looking into him, man, he's legit, dude. So, don't think he's just coming in here just to accept the backup job. There's a reason he left LSU, and I think that he feels that he has the same talent as Dart, if not better, and is going to have a chance to compete. So, man, we're in good hands there with him.
Yeah, and I failed to mention the names of the guys that came in. Jameer Lewis is the guy from Macomb from Southwest. Then you got DJ Holmes. He's the guy with 32.5 sacks. Now, one last thing about, Ole Miss football, they announced the combine invites for the NFL draft, which is going to be held February 28th through March 6th in Indianapolis. Not any real surprising names. You got Zach Evans, Malik Heath, Jonathan Mingo, Nick Broker, Tavius Robinson are going to be the five Rebels representing in Indianapolis. Anything that stands out from those five guys, or what are you seeing with them being invited to the combine? What do you see happening next for those guys?
So usually when you get invited to the combine, you have pretty close to a draft grade or some sort of a draft grade. So that tells me that all those guys are either on the fringe of getting drafted or well in the draft. I'd say Evans, Mingo, somewhere in the draft. They're probably projected to draft. Nick Broker's probably in there somewhere, you would think, because most Senior Bowl guys go as well. Tavius Robinson, he's a guy that if you look at him, his size, he's one of those guys I can see. Like at Ole Miss, he was a good player, right? He wasn't anything special, but I can see them taking him, really developing him. He kind of fits that NFL DN mold. I can see him getting drafted somewhere, probably more surprising than you would think, and going somewhere and being pretty decent, right? Because a guy that size, he just, man, he's I think he's a little better than what a lot of people gave him credit for. So he tells me they should have some draft grades. I know Mingo, I was reading some reports that he was doing really good at the Senior Bowl, really getting in and out of breaks and giving DBs a lot of trouble. So while at Ole Miss, I thought he was good. I thought he could have been better. I think he's one of those guys that somebody's going to actually love, and he may go a little higher than we think as well.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they perform. I would imagine that most of these guys are going to be day 3 draftees. I don't see anybody going first or second round of this list. Now, obviously, things can improve. You can always improve your draft status with the pro day, whenever that is, and of course, how you perform at the combine. But, most of these guys are going to be looking at, 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th or 7th rounders, but, always going to get a chance. And just because you get drafted that late doesn't mean that you can't make an impact on an NFL roster.
I'll be interested to see what Zach Evans does with his 40. Yeah. He's one of those guys that may end up running like a 4.3 or something crazy, just because from everything I've heard, he's actually straight line really fast. So he runs something like that, and he was already a highly recruited guy. And Judkins was better this year, but if you look at his stat, I mean, he still rushed for pretty decent stats.
Absolutely.
He pops off a 4.3, and he had almost 1,000 yards in the SEC. He very well could be a second or third round guy.
He was a game changer when he was on the field, and he was more physical than I was expecting him to be, especially for someone that runs as fast as him. You don't expect them to be as physical as that. So, no, I think, assuming he can show up healthy, because, you're basically going through the ringer in terms of medical evaluations whenever you go to the combine. So, assuming he can come in there.
He fits the NFL mold, right? Like, he's a really good, like NFL's such a pass-heavy league now. Like, a guy that can catch the ball like he can, he fits it. He really fits it a lot better. That old Derrick Henry guy is just tougher. There's much more of the Zach Evans type running backs than there is the Derrick Henry type guys. So you got to be able to receive out of the backfield, and he can. He's a pretty swift guy. So he's one of those guys. I mean, like Kamara, he was good in college, right? But you didn't think he was going to be Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, he was only a third round. He was only a third round pick too. So It's not like he was and he obviously had some real good years with the Saints. Did you see the Kiffin interaction with Hugh Freeze on Twitter today? So if you're not familiar with this, I thought this was pretty hilarious. But so Lane wears sweatshirts with it's the SEC format logo, but it says SIP on it, right? Well, Hugh Freeze and Auburn have kind of unveiled their iteration of that, where it says WAR, and then it has like eagle's feet at the bottom of it. And of course, the internet doing what it does, they photoshopped it and they made that R look like a P. And granted, it looked like a P to begin with, but and so it now says WAP. And I'm not going to get into what WAP stands for, but for all of our listeners, if you just go to Spotify, type in WAP, you should be able to find exactly what you are looking for on Spotify. But Lane pointed out and said, "Do you have any idea what that stands for?" And he added Cardi B, who is the singer of that song. I thought that was one of Lane's better things on Twitter for sure.
Well, even funnier was the company that made them, who made the old school. It looked like my mom actually posted this on Instagram. It said, "We are now
happened?
Extremely disappointed in Lane Kiffin," or hey, we've lost all respect for Lane Kiffin, but like put it in words and made that like a picture. Kind of odd. I don't know. Kind of odd. I guess the shirt company that made it put that out there. So I mean, that is that's hilarious.
Yeah, at least this is probably bringing more attention to it than just Hugh Freeze wearing it. So they should be thankful for that.
Yeah, he was pretty. I mean, he's like creating like this rivalry with Ole Miss. I mean, he's going after a lot of our players.
Copycatting everything.
Yeah, going after a lot of players. You got the old sweatshirt that looks like Lane Kiffin's. I mean, this is going to make for a fun game. It's almost like that UFC or boxing match where they keep all this freaking heckling back and forth, and like when you play, it's going to be worse. That game is going to be fun. I actually may go to that one this year.
Yeah, that one's going to be circled on everybody's calendars. Staying on kind of the football train, obviously Super Bowl this weekend, some, AJ Brown with the Eagles should be pretty interesting to see what he's able to do. I saw an interesting stat. There are, 9 players from the state of Mississippi playing in the Super Bowl Sunday. That's tied for the most in the entire country with the state of Texas. So Mississippi is heavily represented. Obviously, you got Chris Jones, AJ Brown, plenty others. But yeah, the state of Mississippi is going to be highly represented in the Super Bowl on Sunday, and that just shows you the depth of talent that is in the state. When you're compared to, you've got more Super Bowl participants than Florida, California, some of those hotbeds with just the sheer population numbers. That's really impressive. The type of talent that Mississippi is going to be able to pump out.
Yeah, Mississippi always has a lot of talent, man. I mean, I feel like every team I was on has either passed through a JUCO. There's been guys that passed through JUCO here, or been in high school here, or have family here. It's, for being a smaller state, kind of spread out state, I'll put our baseball talent up against anybody.
Absolutely.
But our football talent is pretty darn good itself.
What's your prediction for Super Bowl on Sunday?
Man, I keep going back and forth. I just love Philadelphia, right?
Yeah,
they can line up, run the ball. They're just a really, really good team. I mean, there's no other way to put it. When you got Ndamukong Suh rotating on the D line, like what the hell, dude? Like I think they're going to get after the Chiefs. I really do.
Yeah, I think with Mahomes getting an extra week to rest that ankle, I like them just because of him and Travis Kelce, but I'm really excited about it. I think it should be a good game. Did you get a chance to see the new Pro Bowl format and what they're doing now as opposed to playing the game? I actually liked it because I actually watched it, right? I don't give a shit about the Pro Bowl, at least the past iterations of it, because it's basically just guys running 7-on-7. There's really no effort. But if you didn't catch it this year, it was several contests, and the AFC was manned by Peyton Manning, NFC by Eli Manning. But they had a sled pull similar type thing. They had flag football. They had dodgeball, AFC versus NFC. I thought it was a little bit more interesting, at least different, and the players seemed to like it a lot more too.
It kind of fits today's model, right? Like a lot of entertainment type stuff. My only thing is this, so listen, what's going to happen when, I know they don't want to get hurt playing football, what's going to happen when those guys jump over that damn wall on some of those skills challenges and tear an ACL? There was some of that stuff that I was like, I don't know if I'd be doing that kind of shit.
Did you see Tyreek Hill get absolutely blown up in one of the flag football games?
Destroyed on the end zone. Like, honestly, I thought that was going to create a fight, right?
I did too.
Like a lot of times, like, you don't do crap like that in the NFL. Like, you're out there in shirts and shorts, and you give somebody the business in some type of way, you're fighting somebody. So, like, he got up all happy. I was like, dude. I thought that was about to create a little bit of an issue there, but he played it off good.
Yeah, and more than likely, the interest is probably going to fade out over time because at the end of the day, it's not as exciting as an actual contest. But kudos for them to trying something new because nobody cared about the Pro Bowl, right? This is one of the All-Star games that nobody cares about just because you're still mid-season because you still have the Super Bowl to play the following week. So yeah, kudos for them to try something new. I actually paid attention for a little while longer than I would have, the regular Pro Bowl that they normally do. So
yeah, that definitely needed to be done, right? Because here's the thing: there's a lot of good that can come out of the Pro Bowl. The game really don't mean anything, but all the events throughout the week, the different causes that they that goes into the Pro Bowl. There a lot of people can come out and meet the players, do whatever. But there's a lot of good that can happen out of that, and it does make sense to have some kind of meeting or some kind of get together or something. But I'm glad they adjusted, right? Because the game was just a bad look for the game, right, dude? Just standing around, some guys playing hard, some guys not. Like I feel like the guys have a lot more fun just doing that. And although I would love, that's the whole other side of it. I would love if like the best players in the world on each division would actually get together for 2 weeks and have like a training camp and play like a real Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that would be
like.
Cool.
I feel like that'd be fun to see. Can you imagine a just all the best players on one team actually playing hard and like playing their best in a real uniform that matches? Like, I think that'd be fun to see.
Oh, it would be, it'd be awesome. But I also think like
you would have to put though, you'd honestly have to put like $1 million per player bonus on or something like that. Yeah,
easily. Yeah. But I also think that with this format too, since you're not having to play in a game, you're doing these fun activities and things like you're going to get better participation too, right? Maybe guys are going to opt out less because you can go and, hey, I'll play a little dodgeball. What's the worst that can happen compared to, somebody accidentally rolling me up when I am trying to block somebody or whatever that may be. So maybe you get more star power because you're going to have events like this, but I would imagine they're going to keep doing it because at least the way it seemed, the players seem to enjoy it a lot more than having to play just another game.
Yeah, no question there. And plus, I mean, you get a nice vacation out of it, whatever. It's good. It's good. I mean, if you're not going to play the game the way it's intended to be played, it's better to do something like this for entertainment purposes. Everybody's into the TikTok and all that. This plays in perfect to that world.
Yeah. So, do you have any big plans for the Super Bowl? Do y'all normally do a watch party or are you just going to watch it at your place?
I don't typically I watch it, I'll go to somebody's house or somebody come to my house, but this year I'm not. I'm just going to watch it with the family and haven't been following as much, right? I'm all into the softball stuff. So I haven't been following as much. We're newer to Jackson. So we probably just watch it at my house.
Okay. Well, Brad and Chad show, I do want to make sure that we mention some of our sponsors, one of which Jeff Griffin, Stevenson Griffin Group at Baird Private Wealth Management. Always, go to the group's website, stevensongriffinGroup.bairdwealth.com, or you can always give them a call, 662-841-1900. That's Jeff Griffin with the Stevenson Griffin Group. Now, you kind of led us into softball. We'll talk about your stuff a little bit later on, but more importantly, Ole Miss gets their season kicked off, right? So we talked they're going to be playing in Puerto Vallarta this weekend starting tomorrow. So Friday, the 10th, they're going to be playing. Now, if you want to watch all games streaming at Flow Softball, but we talked about the competition. 5 teams that played in the NCAA tournament last year. The number 3 team in the nation, Oklahoma State. Number 24, Oregon. So they're going to get to see some real good competition, which is always what I like to see. Baseball does it as well. These early season tournaments, they do it in basketball where you're going to get to see some of the heavy hitters playing against each other to really kind of see what you have. The Rebels are putting together, they're bringing back 15 players from last year, and that team won 41 games. They had the number 3 recruiting class in the nation. This can be another team that makes some noise. There have been several super regional runs that this team has made, this program has made the past couple of years. So, I'm not necessarily predicting a national championship, but this is a team that can continue making noise, keep building on the momentum they've had the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah, actually, obviously my kids playing softball, I went to quite a few games last year. I kind of got into it a little bit with their team, and not to mention we had a couple of girls that would come out and help ours. It's a fun sport, man. We have we really have some good players. Coach Jamie's done a great job of bringing players in. And our softball program, man, when I was there, it was in the dumps, right? Like, I mean, they were okay. They were okay, right? Like, I mean, they were just very average, but there was times last year where, to win 41 games, with the way it's been in the past, it's kind of like basketball, women's basketball, right? It's cool to see, us invest a little bit in those sports and that those teams have some success as well, right? Because every time Ole Miss can put their name out there in a positive light, no matter what the sport is, it's good. It's good for Ole Miss, right? So
right.
All sports are trending. I mean, a lot of our sports are trending, maybe except basketball, but we'll get there. We actually had a win there. But a lot of our sports are trending at Ole Miss, man, which is going to create this, this really, really good environment for sports, right? Like a Florida, right? Florida had all those years, everyone in sports and everyone in national championships and all these other sports on top of football, and it just creates a really good environment for the whole school.
Yeah, when women's golf won their national championship a few years ago, a lot of people were like, "Yeah, who cares? It's women's." Man, I don't care if we're playing, some colleges have like meat inspection or livestock. If we have a team, I want to be the best at it, right? So I don't care what the sport is. If Ole Miss if the Ole Miss name is emblazoned across your chest, then I want to be better than the other schools out there, right? So
I feel like you would have been the captain of the meat inspection team.
I was more of an amateur than a professional, right? I don't like to brag about my expertise, but yeah, there's plenty of films out there I'm sure you could find where I was really avid at being able to do that. But yeah, the Rebels, last thing that I want to mention regarding the softball team, they are returning Tate Whitley. If you're not familiar with that name, she was the SEC hit leader last year, 77 hits, third most in program history. So you've got her as a fifth-year senior. You've got Michaela Alley that will also be back. So bringing back a lot of experience, some good transfers. So it's going to be really exciting to see if they're able to have some of the same success that they've seen the past season. So it should be a successful spring with baseball, which kicks up next weekend, which we'll have more information on next week. We'll kind of do a preview show on the baseball team. Dude, I'm really excited about the baseball team, what they're going to have. On paper, they look better than last year's team, which obviously won the national championship.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. It really will. We did lose. The only thing, like, we did lose some pretty good firepower in the lineup. But you look at some of the commits. I actually saw a video. I think it was 3 guys, which I know one of the kids because I know his dad. The Lions kid, but there's a video posted of the 3 guys that we have committed. I don't got their names on top of my head, but they looked unreal. I mean, hopefully we can get those guys to campus, but recruiting's going well in baseball. We've had a few transfers coming that are really good. I'm excited to preview this team, and we're trying to follow it. Here in preseason, it's tough to get it up there, but I think that I think we're gonna make another run at it. What I'd like to not see is what happened to Mississippi State after a national championship. But I think this is different, right? I think this is going to be a different squad. I think Ole Miss is on to something. I'd be willing to bet that we make a decent run this year again.
I would be disappointed if we didn't, right? I would love to make another trip to Omaha. You and I were both in Omaha last year for the national championship. I would love to book tickets to be able to go back out there again. Yep. And like I said, on paper, considering how some of the freshman pitchers are looking and some of the bats that are coming along that didn't necessarily contribute last year, it definitely on paper looks like this is someone that can at minimum get back to Omaha.
What was your favorite part of Omaha other than hanging with me?
Well, it has to be that final out, right, in the game against Oklahoma, right? I mean, just going batshit crazy with complete strangers all around me, hugging, high-fiving, getting beer thrown all over me. Those are one of those things that you're just not going to forget, right?
Yeah, so the final out, my wife had a video of me. I was screaming like a whale, like I was crying.
Okay,
but like I was making the same noise for an extended period of time. So what we may do is next week when we preview our baseball, we'll have a baseball guest on here, and I may play that video and try to get the reaction of what you think about the just the whale noise.
Did it sound? Did you make that same noise this week when you were just laying in bed asking for your wife to take care of you because you were so deathly ill?
I wasn't really deathly ill, but like I was feeling like crap. So I try not to do the whole once you lay down now, I'm afraid you lay down, you may not get back up. So I try to stay up and on my feet just in case I had the old COVID. I don't want to lay down and not be able to get up. So try to keep them lungs and moving.
Well, I know Jess took real good care of you, so I'm sure she's glad that you're back on your feet, man. We were praying for you over here because I know how sick you were.
I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were.
Um, uh, you know, talking about the softball team. Let's talk women's basketball a little bit. The men, hey, they won in Georgia on Tuesday night. Hey, a win's a win, especially on the road. That's good. They got South Carolina at home Saturday. That's another game they should win, but with this team,
now the time. Here's you need to be asking yourself, Chad. Is now the time that Kermit Davis is going to pull a Mike Bianco? No. No. Is he going to take is he going to go on a run here, win the SEC tournament, get an automatic bin? Okay.
No. This is their win Tuesday night was an exercise in futility, right? I mean, there were several opportunities for Georgia to win that game. We tried to give it away toward the end. Look, it is not a good team. They're not a fun team. There's not a run coming. They will play in the SEC tournament because everybody plays in the SEC tournament, and that's about the extent that I can say there.
That's great. You know what? I can't wait for when we're hoisting that national championship this year in basketball, and you are the season. It's going to be Chad Flowers with that quote right there, kind of like the other dudes.
You can basically say whatever you want to in terms of what I will do if Ole Miss wins the national championship, and you can whatever sentence you want to say right now. To say, Chad, if they win, you have to do this. I'll say, okay, sure. Whatever you want, I will do it because that, and yes, we have it recorded. My producer's telling us we have that recorded. Good. Because if they win that, I will happily eat that.
My fever, I think. I need to get my wife here to check my fever. I'm talking about Ole Miss basketball and national championships. Babe, come check my fever, please.
Oh, yeah. Rick, who's producing for us today, say, shave your head. Dude, I'll shave our head if we fucking make the NCAA tournament. That it's not going to happen. Okay, so just saying, shave my body. Yeah, who's to say I don't already do that, Rick? But yeah, so yeah, that this is not going to happen. Let's talk about the women who actually have a chance at making some postseason run. Now, they beat Florida this past week. They've got Kentucky at home on Monday. That's an important game for a lot of different reasons. Recent bracketology has come out. They're sitting at around an 8 or a 9 seed, which means you play the number 1 seed in the second round of the tournament. But it's important to me because have you seen who they play after Kentucky? There are 2 undefeated teams left in women's basketball. Ole Miss plays both of them after this, LSU and South Carolina. Now, granted, that's going to be a little misleading because South Carolina and LSU play this weekend. So by the time that Ole Miss plays one of them, they will already have a loss. But at this moment, both of those teams are still undefeated, 23-0. Not to say that Ole Miss can't beat either one of those teams. But more than likely you're looking at 1 loss, maybe 2. You definitely don't want 3 if you lose to Kentucky on Monday night. So this is going to be a really important game for Coach O's crew to keep that momentum going, especially when you have these Herculean efforts that are going to be needed to knock off your South Carolina and LSU.
Yeah, no question. It'll be. I mean, women's basketball is crazy to me because. Man, like some of the disparity of the number 1 team and even just a good team, it's crazy. Like you'll play those games, it'll be a 30-point game.
Okay, interesting. It's funny that you bring that up. Interesting stat that I saw last night. So UConn, right? Obviously, Gino Auriemma has had a wagon of a program for the last 30 some odd years. So last night they lost to Marquette, and that's 2 losses in a row. They lost to South Carolina prior to that. Guess when the last time they had a losing streak? And a losing streak is two losses in a row. Guess the last time that had happened?
There's no telling.
1993.
Is the last time they lost 2 in a row?
Yeah. That's the last time that UConn women's basketball has lost 2 games in a row. Wow. March of 1993.
Wow.
It's incredible. Now, granted, like you said, there has been a lot more disparity in terms of the haves and have-nots in women's basketball. But regardless, I don't care who you are, what sport you're playing, what level of the game that you're playing, having that level of success for that long is incredible.
I mean, is college football headed there?
No.
Think about it though. We keep buying; these teams keep buying every player, like the really rich ones. Is it going to get to be where it's
Yeah, but no, you're going to have way too many mouths to feed in some of these places. So some good talent's going to make it to these other schools. I don't think Georgia's going to go 10 years without a loss. That's just not going to happen. Alabama's that's not going to happen either.
But can they go 20 without 2 in a row? Because it's looking like it.
I mean, yeah, possibly, but we've got 30 years. Yeah, Mizzou could do it. No, I'm just kidding. They can't.
Yeah, I mean, can Missouri go 30 years winning 2 in a row? Is the question.
Yeah, for real. So I don't think football's going to that level. Hell, I don't even think basketball is going to continue at that level. Yeah. Women's basketball is going to continue because you're seeing more parity at these levels. I just think that was an incredible stat to show how successful Gino Auriemma has been at UConn the last 30 some odd years, because he was the coach back then with that other loss in 1993. Think about what you were doing in 1993. That was the last time they'd lost 2 in a row.
4 years old, dude. 4 years old.
It's wild. So yeah, I found that to be pretty cool, a pretty cool stat. So it'll be really interesting to see what Coach O's able to do against Kentucky Monday night. But then, these 2 real good teams in South Carolina, LSU coming up. That's going to be a real big oil check for her team. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and Chad, I know you don't want to go this route today, but I have to ask your thoughts on the 2 big NBA trades. I'm not an NBA guy, but did you see
Durant? Kevin Durant going to Phoenix, and then Kyrie Irving going to Dallas, the other one.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So, well, I think the more important question is, were the Brooklyn Nets the most disappointing big 3 in the history of the NBA, right? You look at Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen with the Celtics. They won a championship. You had LeBron, Bosh, and Dwayne Wade in Miami. They won multiple championships. You had James Harden. You had Kevin Durant. You had Kyrie Irving all in their prime playing in Brooklyn, and they didn't even make a conference championship. They were terrible. Now, I think definitely Phoenix is now the team probably to beat in the West. Dallas is going to be good when Luka gets back. He's been a little banged up, but that's just going to be until Kyrie decides to be a complete cancer to the locker room and completely screw that locker room up like he's done everywhere else he's gone. But yeah, I definitely think Phoenix is the team.
Why has he gotten so weird, man? He's just like a weird dude. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just misunderstand him. But some of these guys, they get all this money and they get real weird. I mean, he's wearing like a knitted peace hat the other day. It's just like, I don't even know. Like, he's just out there, man.
It feels like it's one of those things where I feel like I need to stand out and be different from everyone. So I'm going to act like I'm the smartest person in the room and take these different takes that are controversial in some regards, or just, the flat earth shit that he did a few years ago. It seems like just a cry for attention, if you ask me. But yeah, the Kings, they didn't really make a big move. But hey, number 3 in the West right now. The West got a lot tougher. But we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. They've got a pretty big gauntlet coming up. And then you got Major League Baseball, which is right around the corner. So it's kind of a dead period in terms of sports, but some really good stuff is coming. We mentioned your softball, Ole Miss softball, baseball's right around the corner. So
we got spring practice coming up too. This will be exciting to get out there and look and see what some of these guys look like. Kiffin has his work cut out for him as far as how's he going to keep all these guys happy, right? How does he keep these 3 quarterbacks? Which it sounds like Sanders is going to be, he's going to be down for the spring, so that's actually going to help him. But what happens? Here's my question: what happens if we get to spring practice and damn Howard's balling out? How does he contain that, right? What if because who's to say Howard can't outperform Jackson Dart? Everybody I've talked to says he's legit. I watch him on film. He looks like Matt Corral. He moves just like him. Same kind of like, the way he gets out of the pocket and stuff, the way he throws. What happens there? If you're Kiffin, do you say the hell with it? And I'm going with I'm going with Howard because that's our guy for the future and he's good, or does he put Dart in there even if he doesn't earn it? Now I think Dart's gonna be the starter. I'll go on record and say that. He's just way too much of a competitor at the end. He got better throughout the year, but man, he's gonna be playing with a little pressure.
I don't think he's going to name anything after the spring, right? Because he's going to want to keep that competition going through summer workouts and ultimately fall practice. Do you think that, especially with the day and age now of transfers and the ability to move, from roster to roster, do you think that the spring is really important now on chemistry and team building at this point?
Really? Yeah, for sure. I mean, these guys are coming in from different programs, right? And that's your window to be ready to go for to have a chance to compete. You need to be there in spring.
Yeah.
You at least learn the offense. You need to take some reps. If you don't now, I mean, heck, I don't know how you compete. I mean, unless you're just that good and that athletic. But the spring is huge, right? You get 15 practices. You get to really study the playbook, and they're still not going to completely get it, the new guys, until camp. They go through camp and all that. So imagine coming in with no reps in the offense, and because there's little details in every offense, right, that you have to have reps at. There's situations that come up. There's blitzes. There's different, coverages, all kinds of stuff that you need to know, or different terminology. You have to get reps at it to know it. You have to, and then the spring's huge.
And I would imagine that it's going to be real big for the defense for Pete Golding to be able to try to install that new defense and how he wants things done. So I would imagine these spring practices are probably going to be some of the more important ones in Lane Kiffin's tenure so far in Oxford.
God, there's nobody happier than to see what our defense is going to look like, right? This crap we've been watching for 4 years, or however long it's been. I mean, it just ain't. It's tough to watch, right? Like,
and I saw where Partridge went back up to Michigan, so he's going back to where he came from. Which he's still a hell of a recruiter, right? He's recruited everywhere.
He's a great coach. I would have kept him all day just as a D-line coach or whatever, as a position coach, because he is a good recruiter. He's brought in some good guys. He's a good coach. He just I just don't think that the defensive scheme really fit us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we now need to talk about what everybody's come for. But let's talk about Bradley's softball update, brought to you by Nest and Wild Mattresses, created by Southern craftsmen. They're powered by decades of experience, passion for improving your quality of sleep. Backed by that 99-night guarantee, Nest and Wilds help you sleep easy, made locally in Tupelo, Mississippi. Find them on Amazon or nestandwild.com. So, Bradley, you mentioned the scrimmage. We've all been waiting with bated breath. How did it go? How does the team look as you start creeping toward this first tournament of the year?
First tournament, we had some jitters, right? We definitely – so, listen, the way we do our scrimmages, we rotate in, all the different pitching, whatever, kind of see what we got. Our good on good, we were very, very good, right?
Okay.
We have a little pitcher that's anybody knows softball out there. She's 10. She throws 52. That equals no telling what in baseball. She had 8 Ks in her 3 innings, 8 Ks, and I think she gave up a ground ball maybe somewhere in there. Good there, right? Where we got to get better is we got to be hit faster pitching. So last night I was amped up at practice. I had some older girl come pitch to us, so we did fine. They would have probably beat us. Their pitching staff was good. I think we were shockingly better than most people here or realized, or they realized. So it was positive, right? It was good. I hate to I hate that we didn't dominate. That's where I want us to be, but didn't quite.
Do you feel like you're on the hot seat yet? Because I mean, these lofty expectations with your pedigree coming in, I would imagine that you're feeling the heat already. Recruiting these players off of already successful teams, really stirring things up inside of the Jackson area. Do you feel like you've got to really come out and show some things, or are you going to be looking for a new job?
You know what? I feel like I did okay. I'll give myself a B. I think where
modest of you, yeah.
I failed as a little bit because I didn't prepare for such fast pitching. So I went out and found a 12U girl last night. We went inside the cages. I had her throwing zingers in there, and they were striking out, but they were swinging. They're swinging better at it, right? We got to be better at faster pitching. Now, if we face a team that's just throwing okay, they're in trouble. They're in trouble because they're not hitting us. Our pitching staff is solid. But we got to get a little better at hitting. So I give myself a B. I apologize to the team. We have team meetings, which is unbelievable at 10.
It really is.
We have a team meeting. I give out a game plan, a sheet. I go over everything, and I took responsibility for that in our team. I said, hey, it's on coach. I did not prepare y'all for that fast of pitching, right? We were preparing for 42 to 44. We faced a team that was throwing 50. One girl was throwing, God knows, 55 or so. We struggle a little bit on the faster pitch. That's on me though. I'll get it right. Okay.
Well, you're learning, right? You're learning as a coach. So I'm sure you're going to right that ship and things are going to be ready for that first tournament. So yeah, let's wrap up here. Remember, Brad and Chad Show brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, handmade in the USA to fit you and only you. Visit them at bluedeltajeans.com to find your fit using their easy-to-use virtual tailor. Next week, we will be talking baseball. We will have a guest on to talk about the baseball team and what the upcoming season is going to look like. To be determined exactly who that is. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get the Brad and Chad Show. We want to keep those numbers going. We want to keep entertaining you. So please make sure you like and subscribe wherever you find the Brad and Chad Show. Until then, enjoy that Super Bowl, Bradley. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
See you, Chad. Howdy toddy.
Thanks for listening to the Brad and Chad Show. Follow the boys on social media for more content. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been an OM Network production, brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, made in the USA.